All right, let's jump right in. We're going to explore a pretty radical idea today. What if you didn't need a church, or a temple, or any specific holy book to get to the heart of reality? What if the universe itself was the only scripture you ever needed? That's the core of a really ancient but incredibly relevant worldview called Hannifian Theology.
So let's just chew on this for a second. What if everything you needed to know, the real stuff, the ultimate truth, wasn't written down by some person in some book a long time ago? What if it was written right here, right now, inscribed in the stars, in the way the seasons turn, and yeah, even in the way your own mind works? That's the big idea we're digging into.
Okay, so where does an idea this big even come from? Well, it doesn't start with a booming voice from the clouds or a stone tablet. Nope. It starts with something much more human, much more primal. It begins with someone just looking up at the night sky and asking, "What is all this?"
This whole way of thinking starts with this idea of an asker. You can think of this as the very first person, way back when, who looked up at that beautiful, chaotic mess of stars and saw something else. Not just chaos, but a pattern, a coherence, an order to it all. And that gut feeling, that intuitive pull towards clarity and away from confusion, well, that's the bedrock of Hannifian theology.
And once you see that first glimmer of order, it leads you to a truly massive insight. I mean, this is the philosophical foundation of the whole thing. It's the idea that, look, for all the incredible variety we see around us, all the different shapes, colors, and forms, at the deepest level, it's all one.
Now, there's a fancy term for this. It's called radical monism. But don't let the name fool you. The idea is actually super simple. It's that all the things we think of as separate, a star, a tree, you, me, we're not really separate at all. We're just different expressions, different modulations, if you will, of one single underlying reality.
Okay, to make this really click, think about the ocean. It's just one thing, right? One giant body of water. But it can be a crashing wave. It can be a cloud of mist. It can be a solid block of ice. They all look and feel totally different, but at the end of the day, they're all just H2O. This theology says the universe is exactly like that. It's one single substance just showing up in a million different disguises. The separation we see, that's the illusion.
And what's so wild is that this isn't some fringe idea that popped up out of nowhere. No way. You see echoes of it everywhere, across all of history. You've got the Islamic concept of Tawhid, the absolute oneness of God. You've got the ancient Hermetic saying, the one is the all. And get this, it even lines up with modern science. The first law of thermodynamics, energy can't be created or destroyed, only changed. Quantum field theory, it basically says all particles are just ripples in one single underlying field. So you have religion, philosophy, science, all pointing to the same fundamental truth.
All right, so if reality is one big thing, and the universe is the book that tells its story, how do you actually read that book, right? That's the next logical question. And that brings us to the actual method, the how-to at the heart of this whole worldview. And this is a really key point. This theology makes a big distinction between two types of scripture. First, you've got your codified scriptures, the books. And they're seen as valuable, for sure, but they're secondary. Why? Because humans wrote them, translated them, and, well, humans can make mistakes or have agendas. But then you have the primary scripture, the celestial text, the universe itself. This one is considered infallible because its language is math, its grammar is the laws of nature, it can't be edited. So how do you read this cosmic book? It happens on three levels, kind of like looking through different lenses. First, you've got the macrocosm. That's looking up at the stars, the planets, the big picture. Then there's the mesocosm. That's looking around you at the cycles of life and death in nature, right here on Earth. And finally, the microcosm. That's looking inward at the structure of your own self, your own consciousness. The really cool part is the belief that the same basic truths, the same patterns, show up on every single level.
So think about what this means. If you can read the universe for yourself, does that mean you don't need a priest or a guru or some big institution to tell you what it says? Well, according to this worldview, yeah, that's exactly right. You have direct access. And it turns out history is absolutely full of people who walked this path.
This leads to the idea of a natural priesthood. We're talking about these historical figures who just got it. They tapped into these universal truths directly, no middleman required. You have figures like the mysterious Melchizedek, the pre-Islamic Hanifs. These were basically true believers who rejected the dogma of their time. The ancient Vedic rishis in India, who were these seers that saw the cosmic order just by observing nature. All of them are part of this lineage of direct, natural faith.
And check out this description of Melchizedek from Genesis.
it perfectly nails this idea. He's described as being without father, without mother, without genealogy. I mean, think about that. He has no earthly lineage, no credentials from some human organization. His authority doesn't come from people, it comes from what he is. It's ontological. He's the ultimate example of a priesthood that exists outside of and even before any specific religion.
So, what happens after one of these trailblazers has a direct experience? Well, this theology points to a pretty predictable cycle, something we've seen happen over and over in history. It starts with that pure, direct knowing, that gnosis. Then, a prophet or a teacher comes along and tries to put it into words, creating a message. But over time, that living, breathing message starts to get stiff. It ossifies. It becomes an institutional code, a set of rigid rules. The insight gets lost, and you're left with just the system. You know the saying, the menu replaces the meal? But, and this is the hopeful part, the cycle always contains the possibility of returning, of going back to that original living source.
Okay, this all builds to a final and honestly a really powerful argument. It's like the ultimate test for what is true, a truth that you literally cannot erase, and it's all grounded in the ethics that come from that core idea of oneness.
First, let's just quickly touch on the ethics that flow from this. I mean, if everything is truly one single reality, then what does it mean to harm someone else? It means you're literally harming yourself. Separation is the illusion. Suddenly, the golden rule isn't just a nice idea. It's a description of how reality actually works. We even see hints of this in our own biology, right? Things like mirror neurons, where we literally feel what someone else is feeling. The connection is real.
All right, now for the grand finale, the thought experiment. It's called the horizon argument, and I want you to really imagine this. Just for a second, picture a world where, poof, it's all gone. Every holy book, every temple, every church, every single religious institution and tradition on Earth just disappears overnight. Everything humans have built around faith, gone.
So, in that world, what's left? What remains? Well, the sun would still come up in the morning, the seasons would still turn, the cycles of life and death, of birth and decay would continue just as they always have. The fundamental math that holds the cosmos together would still be there, and the human mind, with its ability to reason and feel awe, would still be here to see it all.
And that unchanging cosmic testimony, that's the foundation of what you could call the Hannifian wager. It's basically a bet. A bet on the evidence that can't be burned, can't be rewritten, and can't be controlled by any human institution. It's a wager that says, trust the universe, trust the thing that cannot lie.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last question. And this one isn't for me to answer, it's for you, because this whole way of thinking is built on direct, personal insight. So, if we take this idea seriously, if the cosmos really is an open book, a scripture written in stars and atoms, what's it telling you?